Chapter 1900, The Infiltration Plan. Zhang Yi rubbed his hands together after listening to Yang Xinxin's words. If that's the only way to interpret it, there are too many possibilities. What does that have to do with our trip to the Keiji Kingdom? Yang Xinxin smiled. Brother, there are 3 types of divination images: pictures, words, and prophecies. You have to look at the images and prophecies together with the accompanying text to understand what it's really saying. Zhang Yi's gaze fell on the accompanying text at the back. A soldier with a bow, he says, I am the white-headed old man. A golden sword in the eastern doors, the warrior enters the emperor's palace through the back door. This passage seems to make perfect sense when taken literally. It seems that a soldier has entered the emperor's palace and is trying to assassinate him. Yang Xinxin pointed to the prophecy above and the ode below. You can't be sure just by looking at one. But when you look at them together, it's very clear. No one will die, but one will not escape. A golden sword is hidden in the eastern doors, and the warrior enters the emperor's palace through the back door. She stared at Zhang Yi and said in a deep voice, according to the hexagram, our trip to the Keiji Kingdom may result in a conflict with Commander Sane. Maybe even his death. This is highly likely. He won't let us take the Spear of Longinus so easily, so a conflict is inevitable. Deng Shintong frowned. But if that happens, there will be big problems. After all, the Keiji Kingdom is an independent sovereign state with tens of millions of people. Commander Sane is the head of the Keiji Kingdom. If he is eliminated, it will certainly have a negative international impact. Once we start this, the attitude of other countries towards us in the future will also become very delicate. A fierce light flashed in his eyes. No wonder Olive would come from afar to find you and ask you to do this. Zhang Yi of course knew about this kind of thing. However, his original plan was to quietly investigate the location of the Spear of Longinus and steal it. His space ability could go through walls and rooms, and stealing an object was very simple. But if he had to fight Commander Ken Sane, that would be the worst outcome. He had the advantage of location, and in the Keiji Kingdom, he had the power of faith, with more than 20 million crazed followers, which would definitely make Commander Sane incredibly powerful. Even today, he is not sure that he can defeat him. Zhang Yi looked at Yang Xinxin and asked, Xinxin, are you sure about your interpretation? Why does it have to be me? Is it possible that it refers to someone else? For example, a mutant from another region of the Huashu Kingdom? You see, didn't Xiao Liu just drive Li Changgong away? Li Changgong, could it be that he is the person with the bow in the divination? Yang Xinxin shook her head. Brother, the person with the bow is the one who broke into the palace, not the emperor. Don't forget, your name also has a bow in it. Zhang Yi's surname Zhang, when broken down, is long bao, and indeed there is a bow. Zhang Yi crossed his arms and rested his chin in his hands. Zhou Qir whispered beside him, if something like that happens, I'm afraid it will cause us a lot of trouble. Meddling in the internal affairs of another power and killing the head of a major country. This kind of thing is very feared. Yang Xinxin didn't continue. The demon eye marks on her and Zhang Yi's bodies were known only to the two of them. So she understood that they had to go on this mission, for their own sake. In any case, we must participate in this mission. Zhang Yi did not change their decision because of the prophecy. If we really need to take that action, it means it is heaven's will, and we will definitely succeed. He must obtain Ling's mortal body. Zhang Yi had already made his decision, so naturally the others would not voice any objections. So everyone seized the time to investigate and gather intelligence, and prepare supplies. The fortress was normally fully prepared for war, so there was no need for special preparations. Zhang Yi, out of habit, just said something to Zhu Zheng, and then led the Tianhai fortress and everyone else to Euro Blizzard City, Command Center Building. After finishing his communication, Zhu Zheng sat in his office chair and rubbed his forehead. Tianhai City was now becoming more and more independent from Blizzard City, and the status of the two sides had completely reversed. The reason Zhang Yi didn't establish a large region was simply because he didn't want to get involved in the affairs of other places. But for Zhu Zheng, this feeling was not good at all. Even the Deng family had completely sided with Zhang Yi. Deng Yuanbo stayed in Blizzard City to run the family business, while the new generation, Deng Shintong, was in Tianhai City. This family had bet on both sides. They were truly worthy of being old-timers, and truly cunning. Zhu, my daughter, he muttered Zhu's name, and only when he mentioned her did Zhu Zheng feel a little relieved. She was his greatest support now. Lan Xincheng stood behind Zhu Zheng and, seeing his pensive expression, said hesitantly, Commander Zhu, Zhang Yi is now one of the two top experts in the Huaxu Kingdom. His influence even surpasses Ho Tu on the international stage. Although Miss Zhu is extremely talented, she has always stayed in Blizzard City. Won't this restrict her growth? She originally had the opportunity to surpass Zhang Yi. Zhu Zheng turned around and didn't say anything, but gave Lan Xincheng a fierce look. Lan Xincheng felt like he had fallen into an ice cave and quickly lowered his head. I deserve to die for saying such things. Zhu Zheng sat in his chair, staring into the cold sky in the distance, and remained silent for a long time. As long as Gao Changkong lives, Zhu cannot leave my side. I created her, and she must obey me. Lan Xincheng nodded in agreement, but a flash of helplessness passed through his eyes. The rebellion 3 years ago still cast a huge psychological shadow over Zhu Zheng. Even though he knows that Gao Changkong is in Brahma and there is no way he can risk venturing into the heart of the Huaxu Kingdom, Zhu Zheng dares not take even the slightest risk. He left Zhu Zheng's office, took the elevator from upstairs and went down to the ground floor to the laboratory. This is where Zhu lives most of the time. Zhu Zheng has devoted all his resources to making her strong. Every day, she is examined by Li Lingxue, and a training regimen has been specially designed for her. When Lan Xincheng saw Zhu, he said helplessly to her, I have already persuaded Commander Zhu, but he is not at ease letting you go. You should know that he has two major concerns. One is Gao Changkong, and the other is Zhang Yi. Zhu was lying on the lazaboy sofa, her black dress wrapped around her, her bare feet resting on the floor. Her eyes, which were like obsidian, showed no expression as she looked at the white ceiling above her. Her room was filled with all kinds of stuffed animals. Although she had the body of an 18-year-old girl, she had technically only been born less than 2 years ago. After listening to Lan Xincheng's words, she said with some confusion, I know that Dad is afraid of Gao Changkong. But why does he regard Zhang Yi as a major threat? There is no need for a reason. A overlord who holds power will always harbor ill will towards anyone who can easily overturn everything he has built. Zhu's voice was calm and without emotion as she said, but I don't have any more food here that I want. She was a devourer and must constantly feed. The feeling of having great power after tasting the high-level mutant origin had made her addicted. However, as she grew more powerful, it was clear that what Zhu Zheng could give her was no longer enough to satisfy her appetite. Lan Xincheng looked at the young girl in front of him, and a strange thought came to mind. Miss, are you planning to leave Blizzard City? Zhu sat up from the sofa. This place is so boring, I want to see what the world outside the city is like. She looked at Lan Xincheng, and there was a dark light in her eyes, surging like a dark tide. After a moment, her body began to twist, and another version of herself split off in the same place. The original body of Zhu, on the other hand, began to grow rapidly, with changes to its skeleton and facial features. Lan Xincheng looked at what was happening before him without any surprise. It wasn't until Zhu had completely morphed into his appearance that he noticed that even the clothes were the same as his. Zhu had so many different abilities at his disposal that Li Lingxue had called it 1,000 transformations. Some of the abilities of the lower-level mutants were not strong, but they were very useful. You plan to leave Blizzard City in my appearance? Lan Xincheng frowned and said, that would cause me a lot of trouble. Even he could be killed by an enraged Zhu Zheng. Everyone knew the importance of Zhu to Zhu Zheng. No one will find out if I leave her here, Zhu pointed at her clone. Lan Xincheng asked, what about Professor Li? Zhu raised the corners of her mouth, revealing a charming smile. She's always been supportive of me. Xu was Li Lingshua's perfect creation, and she wanted to see for herself more than anyone else just how far Xu could grow. Xu left Blizzard City as Lan Xinqing. Zhu Jing had always regarded her as a clone that could be controlled. But over time, he seemed to forget that even a clone is a living person. Her original body was Yuan Kongyue, and her personality is similar to Yuan Kongyue's. At heart, she is a rebellious and crazy young girl. An 18-year-old girl, her mind is full of curiosity about the world. She said, "The world is so big, I want to see it." Soon after Zhang Yi and the others set off, they went directly to the Roman city-state and met Olive, who was waiting there. At the same time, they also met Odin and the others. The scene before them, although not as spectacular as the original expedition to Fremons, was full of the world's top experts. Naturally, the Knights of the Round Table would not come, because King Arthur was a member of the pupil organization on the surface and had a bad relationship with the Holy See. It's just that. Did Columbia send anyone over? Zhang Yi asked curiously. Columbia also belongs to the Eastern Orthodox Church, which is widespread, so logically they would not be absent from something like this. Olive said to Zhang Yi, "Something happened to the people over there, so they won't be able to arrive until later. Don't worry, once you get the Spear of Longinus, he won't be late." Zhang Yi nodded, "That would be good." His gaze fell on the black man wearing the luxurious animal skin, and he looked curious. He hadn't seen him on the previous trip to Fremons. Olive introduced Zhang Yi, "This is the chief and shaman of the O clan from Feizhou. We need their help if we want to enter the Demon's Eye." He lowered his voice and said mysteriously to Zhang Yi, "The O clan had contact with the underground civilization in Feizhou last century. We suspect that it was the Demon clan from the Demon's Eye." Zhang Yi looked surprised. Last century? At that time, mutants had not yet appeared on a large scale. So-called demon relatives are what these indigenous Feizhou people can fight against. However, Olive did not explain too much. This was a secret of the O clan, and it was not appropriate to tell Zhang Yi in front of Odibio. Instead, Odibio, upon seeing Zhang Yi, came over with a dark face. "Are you Chaos from the East?" Zhang Yi nodded, "Yes, and you are?" "Odibio, I am the head of the O clan and the Grand Shaman. But you don't need to be formal with me, just call me by my first name. My name is Odwa Muirwinayiru Twunwi Wunmubanusa Piao." Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi, "Hello, shaman." After a little while of exchanging greetings, Zhang Yi began to refer to the other man by his first name, Odibio. Odibio looked like a difficult person to get along with, and shamanism itself was extremely mysterious, so ordinary people avoided it. However, after some communication, Zhang Yi found that this person was quite straightforward. He also expressed interest in the many strange techniques of the mysterious Eastern country, and hoped to exchange ideas with him when he had the time. "I came as promised, but how do I infiltrate the Keiji kingdom, get close to Commander Ken Sane, and quietly get the Spear of Longinus? This is a difficult problem." Zhang Yi looked at Olive. "Mr. Olive, you didn't call me here without a plan, did you?" Olive said, "Of course, we have a complete plan. This matter has to start with Hyun Hae-su. Ken Sane had spent many years doing business in eastern Guangdong in the Huashu Kingdom, and those years were regarded as his glory years. Therefore, after becoming the commander of the Keiji Kingdom, he particularly missed the Cantonese cuisine of the Huashu Kingdom. Hyun Hae-su was able to enter Ken Sane's eyes not only because he had a beautiful wife, but also because he was a good Cantonese cook. Now that Hyun Hae-su has defected, Commander Sane is lacking a good Cantonese cook by his side." Olive's suggestion to Zhang Yi was to disguise himself as a Cantonese chef and get close to Commander Sane. After listening, Zhang Yi pondered the feasibility of the idea for a while. It wasn't difficult to disguise himself as a chef. Mu Yan's dimensional space took Yang Xia with her, and with her cooking skills, she was sure she could satisfy Commander Sane's appetite. After all, this was the end of the world, and in a poor and backward place like Feizhou, even the commander couldn't eat too good of a meal. Yang Xia took him by the scruff of the neck. But the problem was how to get close to him. Applying for the job of chef on purpose would definitely arouse suspicion. Olive smiled and said, "We've already thought of that. In the KG Kingdom, the commander's orders are everything. Even the toilet paper he uses is a top priority for the country. If he says he wants Cantonese food, I don't know how many people will rack their brains to find a professional chef for him. If conditions permitted, I think they would even go so far as to travel to the Jiangnan region of the Huashu Kingdom to kidnap a Cantonese chef. Our plan is for you to go to Hopu City, on the border between the KG Kingdom and the Khitan Empire. There, you will enter an international hotel as a Cantonese chef. We will spread your reputation and concoct a plausible identity for you. At that time, the people of the KG Kingdom will contact you on their own initiative. They will not miss this opportunity to curry favor with Commander Sane." Zhang Yi nodded. The plan was indeed a good one. But what about after entering the KG Kingdom? I know nothing about that place, and once I go there, I'll be like a headless chicken. Not to mention finding the Spear of Longinus, I'll be lucky if I can find my way out of the door. Olive said, "You can take your fellow villager with you." With that, he clapped his hands. From the back of the room, two clerics led a young, emaciated man in. Olive pointed at him and said, "This is Hyun Hae-soo, a defector from the KG Kingdom. You can take him with you. He spent 3 years in the KG Kingdom and was the personal chef of Commander Sane. No one knows the KG Kingdom better than he does." Hyun Hae-soo looked up. His weathered face was as lifeless as a zombie's, making Zhang Yi suspect that he had just been dug out of a coffin. It was only when he saw Zhang Yi's familiar Asian face that Hyun Hae-soo's eyes gradually brightened. You are from the Huashu Kingdom? Did the motherland send you here to save us?" He rushed to Zhang Yi's side, grasping at him like a drowning man grasping at a straw. Zhang Yi instinctively took a few steps back to avoid him. He glanced at Olive, who said, "His wife was captured, and her life is in danger." Olive then said to Hyun Hae-soo, "This person is a world-renowned powerful person. He is also your compatriot from the Huashu Kingdom. This time, as long as you fully assist us, we can help you save your wife and send you anywhere you want to go." Zhang Yi crossed his arms and carefully examined Hyun Hae-soo. This person is very useful. Not only is he an excellent guide, but he is also an excellent cover. Zhang Yi can use the name of saving his countrymen to do things in the KG Kingdom in an open and above-board manner. Now, there is still one question, an important question. Just how strong is Ken Sane? If the other party's strength is limited, Zhang Yi will simply use the easiest method to force the other party to hand over the object. Olive said, "The Eastern Orthodox Church has not been at war with them, so it is difficult to judge clearly." However, he turned his head to look to the side, where sat the Emperor of the Khitan Empire, Saladin, and the God King of Asgard, Odin, Lord of the Nine Realms. They may know. Phasio is close to the equator and is the warmest place on Earth. After the end of the world, many Nordic countries had the idea of immigrating to Phasio because they could not stand the cold weather. Now a large part of Phasio has been taken over by newly established enclave cities of European countries. But when they arrived in the KG Kingdom, they met with strong resistance. Saladin looked at Zhang Yi and said, "The army of the Khitan Empire once set foot on this land, but returned without success. Here, we will find it difficult to defeat Ken Sane." Odin also said, "Although I did not fight personally, the 2 chariot-level mutants from Asgard who led the way here were both seriously injured. One black chariot-level mutant died, and a large number of soldiers died tragically." Zhang Yi heard this and basically already had a judgment in his heart. The power of faith is the power that unites the hearts and minds of people, and it is an alternative way to gather the spirits of many intelligent life forms in one place. Therefore, it may be difficult to defeat Ken Sane on this land. Otherwise, how could he have stopped the many Euro powers from advancing south? Zhang Yi had a rough idea of the numbers. The southwest region had a population of just over 1 million at the time. The Undertaker was able to counter the bishop-level Prince Nash of the kingdom with the standard of the Black Chariot, thanks to the millennia of accumulated tantric faith. And at this time, Commander Ken Sane is feared to have reached an unimaginable level. He thought of the 2A-2 hexagram Yang Xinshin had mentioned, and couldn't help but think, it's best if nothing happens. I'll leave all the arrangements to the Holy See and the Khitan Empire. The location will be Hopu City. Zhang Yi deliberately called Hyun Haesu over and had Yang Xinxin shoot an arrow at him, so that he would know everything that happened. He didn't have much to say about the fate of the two of them. After the end of the world, he had experienced even more unacceptable things. Humans are inherently vulnerable in the face of the vastness of fate. One day later, a new chef arrived at the largest international hotel in Hopu City. It was said that he made excellent Huashu food, especially Huaiyang cuisine. This was the persona created for Zhang Yi. If he happened to be good at making Cantonese food, it would arouse suspicion. At this time, he had already changed his appearance. Zhou Qi moved his facial muscles and bones very easily, making him look like an unattractive ordinary young man. Inside the hotel kitchen, he was wearing a white chef's uniform and frying, stir-frying, and cooking like crazy, but he didn't know anything. Yang Xia made all the food, and he only needed to take it out of shadow space when needed. As they had predicted, it took less than half a month before the fish took the bait. A few black men who looked like they were from the Keiji Kingdom came to the hotel and ordered a few dishes that weren't on the menu, all of which were Cantonese dishes. These people had been thoroughly investigated before they appeared, and they were under the command of a high-ranking official from the Keiji Kingdom. When Hyun Haesu saw the dishes they ordered, he immediately said to Zhang Yi, "These are all Kensei's favorite dishes. They are testing your cooking skills." "I know," Zhang Yi said nonchalantly, because it wasn't his job to cook. Yang Xia would cook the dishes, and he would then have them served. That day, those people finished eating without saying anything and left. But Zhang Yi was confident that they would definitely come again. Sure enough, the next day, the people from the Keiji Kingdom came again. However, this time it was not the two agents from yesterday who came, but a middle-aged man dressed in extraordinary clothes.